So we had to hire an attorney to create a release of liability and a waiver form, which was a couple $1,000s to get one created. We have to be much stricter on who rents, so we can't do instant book. We send them the documentation for them to sign electronically. They have to send us the license of every single person above the age of 18 that will be on the property, as well as documentation for any minors that will be on the property, and release of waivers for them that are completed by a parent or guardian. So we opened a whole can of worms.
By
And it
adding
makes it
the
much more difficult.
climbing wall.
Yes. And then since we were already doing the climbing wall, we went ahead and included the hot tub and just any liability on the property in that waiver. But that makes things much, much more difficult. And I have to go through, steps A, B, C, D, E before I can actually approve and make sure they're staying, and then keep the reservation versus having to cancel it because for whatever reason they don't meet the requirements.
Well, rock climbing wall is slightly different because not a lot of homes have it.
Mm-hmm.
But the other amenity that you just mentioned, hot tub, is a very common amenity nowadays with Airbnbs. So what kind of extra liability concern are you envisioning with that? Because your homeowner's insurance should pick that up. No, if you let them know that I'm installing a hot tub at my place.
It depends on the policy. And it depends on the policy whether or not they cover a short-term rental guest using said hot tub. So for instance, we had a $300,000 home insurance policy on our home. This was prior to us renting on Airbnb. We were still fixing up the inside, but I was using Sniff Spot and renting the yard. Got to make my dollars where I can. And then my insurance actually sent me a letter that said, we are covering like certain guests if they're your guest, but if they are paying guests, that's now commercial. If someone falls and hurts themselves on Sniff Spot or gets bit by a dog because it's a dog park, we are not covering that. So once there's an exchange of money, it's no longer just a guest in your home. This is a commercial operation. One, I made sure that the owners listed my business as an additional insured on their policy. So, and actually three things, but that kind of went along with it. Two, I made sure that they had a policy that covers short-term rentals. So first you have to get something with a short-term rental endorsement. Then I made sure that my business, Meta Capital, is an additional insured on their policy, which is more money, but so it's not the owner that's operating commercially. And then the third step was getting Wister, which is that co-hosting kind of just liability policy.
Yeah. Yeah, but let's take it a step back, right? I'm still trying to understand one thing here. So you got an insurance policy that is for the home, like a regular homeowner's policy, and you got the short-term rental endorsement or the rider. Now, the technically insurance company knows that short-term rentals means a paying guest. So in that sense, it's commercial in nature. And in that sense, it should be covering the general liability.
It should.
But it's not?
Not necessarily.
All right. So then I think for our viewers, our listeners, what questions should they be asking their insurance agent slash company to make sure that they are doing the things the right way, or change the insurance company, right? Based on the answer.
Grill your insurance company and give them every worst case scenario possible. If someone comes to my property and a neighbor's dog gets out and bites them on my property, is that covered? If someone falls down the stairs, if someone drowns in my hot tub, if someone, breaks their back on whatever, and try to find a scenario where they say, no, that's not covered. And then I like to follow up with an email with those exact examples, and I get in writing that those would be covered. So for instance, Proper denied us for this cabin because of the rock climbing wall. They said it's too much liability. We went with Steadily, which is another one that's very well known in the short-term rental industry. So Steadily is more of that homeowner's policy with a short-term rental endorsement, but they do kind of specialize in short-term rentals. So they do cover a little bit more than like travelers, which is what we have at our personal home. And then I spoke to the guy. I told him exactly what we were doing. I sent photos to him. After he said everything would be covered because of our waivers and our release of liabilities, then I sent him an email attaching copies of those with PDFs and saying, please confirm in writing that this is enough coverage and that we would not, run into a snafu in the future if there was an issue. And I made sure to get that answer before ever allowing a guest here.
Yeah, so that kind of went into your binder.